do this. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome in to the real Jonathan Smith Show. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching the show on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. We got football tonight. It's the Old Man Bowl. Rodgers and Flacco going at it. That'll be a lot of fun to watch. What else is going on this week? We got Major League Baseball, ALCS. Blue Jays take a game off the Mariners last night. Pretty dominant fashion as well. And then, more of the NLCS tonight as the Brewers are trying to, get back into that series. I'll be honest. I hope the Dodgers sweep them because I don't really like the Brewers. Anyway, Colts putting their 5-1 record on the line on Sunday as they go on the road to take on the Chargers, and that is where I start today. How good are the Los Angeles Chargers? At one point during the season, I was walking around with a banner that said that the Los Angeles Chargers were the best team in the NFL. That's how good that roster is. And then all these things started to happen. Najee Harris tears his Achilles. Omarion Hampton gets hurt. He goes on IR. Khalil Mack gets hurt. He hurts, his elbow. He goes on IR. And then everyone else followed. Just so many injuries for this Los Angeles Chargers team. And there's a lot of conversation around, Baker Mayfield and how he's really carried that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, even with all the injuries. We've seen Justin Herbert do the exact same thing. Rashawn Slater, starting left tackle, he goes out for the year. Joe Alt, he hurts his ankle. He's missed a bunch of games. Jamari Sawyer, he misses games. Trey Pimpkins III comes in to fill in for Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, and then he gets hurt. It's just very problematic for the Chargers, all of these injuries. Now, to be fair, 3 of those 4 offensive linemen could be back this week. And despite all of these injuries, the Chargers are 4-2. And that is a testament to Justin Herbert and how well he's played this year. He has a real argument for MVP, and it follows the same one as Baker Mayfield. Hey, look at all these wins and big plays despite everything around them falling apart. So Justin Herbert has really, been the engine of the offense, which would have been true one way or the other. The engine's just having to work a little bit harder. And then they've also got a very good defensive coordinator in Jesse Minter, one of the better defensive coordinators in the NFL. Fully expect for that guy to get some head coaching interviews this upcoming offseason, right? Like, he's legitimately one of the best defensive coordinators. And what he has done with all the injuries on his defense, I find to be very, very impressive. But let's start with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is completing 68% of his passes on the year. He's 8th in passing yards. He's thrown for 8 less yards than Daniel Jones has. He's 9th in passing touchdowns, 10th in QBR, and he's rushed for the 10th most yards amongst quarterbacks in the NFL. Once again, very impressive. Everything that we've seen from Justin Herbert this year. And once again, he's doing all of this on a Chargers team that is incredibly injured. Justin Herbert's been hit more than any other quarterback in the NFL. And once again, I point to all of the injuries going on with this roster. And I've made my argument for Baker Mayfield and how at this point in the season, we're 6 games deep. I've made my argument for why Baker Mayfield is the MVP up to this point. 5-1 despite all the injuries around him. Justin Herbert, same thing. His team is 4-2 despite all the injuries around him. And it's not like they've played an easy schedule. Warren Sharp came out yesterday and he had this strength of schedule. Who have you played the first 6 weeks compared to what you have going forward? The Chargers have played the 16th toughest schedule in the NFL this year. So it's not like he's doing this against cupcakes. To be fair, Daniel Jones, pretty easy schedule to start the year. 4th easiest in the NFL, according to Warren Sharp's graph. Right? And he's still putting up all of these really high numbers despite playing against some solid teams. The Chiefs, it's a good team. The Raiders, not a good team. The Broncos, 4-2, best defense in football. The Giants, who aren't great. The Commanders, who are a solid team. The Dolphins, who aren't very good. But again, I point to all of the injuries. So the Colts are playing this Chargers team at the right time with all these injuries going on, right? Multiple guys banged up, hurt. With that being said, Justin Herbert, very capable of putting the team on his back and finding a way to win the football game, because Justin Herbert has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL to start the season. The reason why, no one wants to say that is because we haven't seen this guy win a playoff game yet. He blows the big, 27-point lead against the Jags a couple of years ago. Trevor Lawrence comes roaring back and they win that game. Last year, the Chargers go like 11-6 in the regular season, make the playoffs as a wild card. They go on the road to the Houston Texans. Justin Herbert throws 4 interceptions. Bada bing. CJ Stroud has his second career playoff win. Not necessarily because CJ Stroud played great. It's more so because Justin Herbert threw 4 picks. So people won't give him the credit that he deserves because he's never won a playoff game. But there's a decent chance that changes this year because he's playing really well. And this defense is really good. Without Khalil Mack and 2 other pass rushers, missing 3 starting linebackers, and their top 2 corners, they've still found a way to win games. Their defense has clearly taken a hit with all of the injuries. Right? That has absolutely happened. The biggest area of concern for the Chargers is their run defense. That is where they've really been hurt the most. When you lose like 4 linebackers, that's probably and 2 defensive ends, that's probably what's going to happen to you. And that's obviously great for the Colts. Like this should be, I'm not going to say should. This could be a very big day for Jonathan Taylor on Sunday. The Chargers are 29th in the NFL in yards per carry allowed at 5 yards per carry. It should be a big day for Jonathan Taylor. Big holes for him to run through. That Colts offensive line remains impeccably healthy. Braden Smith didn't practice yesterday, but that's just because he's resting. This should be a day, or Sunday should be a day where the Colts just line it up and run the football. And it should be so much fun to watch. I get it. Shane Steichen, throw to get ahead, run to win. I think they should just run to get ahead and then run to win. How about we just double up on the running this week against a Chargers defense that is banged up and doesn't do a very good job of defending the run? Now, the Chargers are 12th in the NFL in points allowed per game. What's really bizarre about it is the Colts are 4th and 1 point separates the 2 teams. It's so funny. You'll look at, the best, yards, the best run defense in the NFL by yards per carry. There's like 1.5 yards difference between them and the 32nd ranked team. It's crazy how small the margins are in the NFL. And it makes sense though, right? Because if the margins weren't this small, then we wouldn't have all these 1-score games every single week. But this is a very good Chargers defense. And they're able to keep the scoring low despite all of the injuries and the bad run defense because of their red zone defense. They've only allowed a touchdown when the opposing team has gotten into the red zone 43% of the time. That is a very high, that's a very impressive number. It's the second highest mark in the NFL, only behind the Broncos, who are at a whopping 29%. That's crazy. It helps when you played the Colts as early as they did before the Colts figured out their red zone stuff, and they just played the Jets, so that makes it a little easier. Anyway, the Chargers are 9th in opponents' yards per play, which means that they're doing a good job of limiting explosives, and they're 13th in third down defense. With all the injuries that they've sustained, the fact that they have found a way to be what I think is one of the 10 best defenses in the NFL, it is incredibly impressive. It is. And it makes sense, right? Like they're 4-2, and it's not like they're just beating bad teams. Like they beat a good Chiefs team. They beat a good Broncos team. All right? They beat the Dolphins, who weren't very good. And then they beat the Raiders, who also weren't very good. But they have 2 quality wins, right? Like that's 2 more quality wins than the Bills have or the Lions. It's the reality of it. So this is a good football team. The Chiefs and Broncos, divisional games, those are good wins. Honestly, going on the road to Miami with all the injuries, I think that's a pretty impressive win as well, especially if you watch that game. Then you just know how hard the Chargers had to scratch and claw to go on the road and win that game. So, with all that being said, the Colts are playing the Chargers at the perfect time. They should win this game. Again, I do not know how the Colts are 1.5-point underdogs. Doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. None at all. So I actually want to check and see if that line has moved at all. Oh, where'd it go? Carolina, Denver. No, yeah, it hadn't moved. The Chargers, amidst all the injuries, are still a 1.5-point favorite. And like I get it. Part of that is because the Colts are going on the road and they're traveling all the way out to, LA and the time change. These college football coaches have really made an impact on these lines, talking about how tough it is to travel. NFL teams only do it every week, and I get it. College teams are not NFL teams, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, if both teams were healthy, I would take the Chargers. This Chargers roster on both sides of the football is nasty. It is an excellent, excellent roster. But the reality of the NFL is people get hurt. It happens every single year. There's always a couple teams that seem to be a little more hurt than everybody else. This year, that is the Ravens, that is the Buccaneers, and it is the Chargers. Great break for the Indianapolis Colts, getting to play this Chargers team at this point, because they have guys who are going to come back. It's just not going to happen until later on in the season. Okay, so if both teams were healthy, I would take the Chargers, but they're not. And the Colts are incredibly healthy. You could argue that the Colts are the healthiest team in the NFL. It's a real argument that you could make. The only way the Colts lose this game is if they do what they did the last time they went to LA to play a game, and that is beat themselves. If they turn the football over 3 times like they did in that game, the A.D. Mitchell fumble and the 2 Daniel Jones interceptions, then they'll probably lose. If Justin Herbert throws the football right at Zaire Franklin and he drops it like he did when Matthew Stafford threw the football right to him, then there's a decent chance that the Colts lose because they don't take advantage of that play. Same goes for Charvarius Ward. His interception in that game, a little bit tougher, but I expect for corners, especially one of the best corners in the NFL, to make that play. Okay, you can't have 10 men on the field late in the game when you need a stop, especially since this Chargers receiving corps is pretty good. Quentin Johnston could give him some trouble deep down the field. Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, 2 guys that have doctorates in just how to run routes and how to get open. So no 10 men on the field late in the game. Don't drop interceptions. Don't turn the football over 3 times. That's how you lose this game. The Chargers are good, right? 4-2, couple good wins. But with all these injuries, they're not better than the Colts are right now. Like, they're going to have a couple guys potentially come back this week and play. Doesn't matter. They're still missing, like, 10 guys. It's incredible, the amount of injuries that this team has sustained. This is one of those games that the Colts need to win. I went over it yesterday. Seeding. This is a seeding game for the Colts. Win this game. Hold the tiebreaker over the Chargers, right? Like, you give yourself an extra game right? So now, if the Chargers finish 11-6 and the Colts finish 11-6, the Colts have the higher seed. You play the lesser team in the first round. You play the Chargers later. You get them at home and all of those things. So going to be, just an interesting game. C. Fitz mentioning that Cam Ward and Josh Downs are both going to be out on Sunday. Very likely. They both have concussions. Don't love that. And the Colts injury report came out yesterday. I'm going to run through it. The Chargers injury report came out yesterday as well. I'm going to go through that too because injuries matter as much as game plan and who your quarterback is and all those other things. So my thoughts on the Colts injuries and the Chargers injuries going into this game in 4 minutes.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching the show on X _ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app that you can download wherever you find your apps. And, of course, 1430 AM as well if you want to listen there if you're riding around in your car. The Colts, injuries, man. They are important every single week, so we go over them every single week. And yesterday, the Colts injury report, it came out, as did the Los Angeles Chargers. Let's start with the Colts, though. Several guys did not practice. No Josh Downs. He has a concussion. Very weird. Wasn't concussed during the game. Concussions are weird. I guess that these concussion symptoms can just kind of show up whenever. And I guess that Josh Downs had some symptoms after the game. In addition to that, Charvarius Ward also has a concussion, his second of the year. You can clear the concussion protocol in a week. It's just really difficult to do. The NFL has really kind of cracked down on it. They're doing their best to, make sure that these guys stay healthy. And I get it, but I also want for Josh Downs and Charvarius Ward to play on Sunday. So it looks like both of those guys aren't going to play. No Josh Downs means we probably see A.D. Mitchell. Maybe. He definitely won't be inactive. I'd be very surprised if he was a healthy scratch on Sunday just because Josh Downs isn't going to be available. With that being said, if they wanted to, they could most definitely opt to play Ashton Dulin in the slot over A.D. Mitchell. That is, without a doubt, an option for them. And then, speaking of Ashton Dulin, he has a chest injury. That makes me think we will definitely see A.D. Mitchell. And the Ashton Dulin chest injury was bad enough that he didn't practice yesterday. With that being said, when guys don't practice on Wednesday, that is not necessarily the most damning thing. Like, there are plenty of times where they just give those guys an extra day just to kind of get right. So, we'll find out, obviously, a lot more about Ashton Dulin and kind of his injury today. If he doesn't practice today, then A.D. Mitchell will have his opportunity at a little bit of redemption. And it'll be poetic if he does play. Okay, like this was the stadium, SoFi, where he made the big mistake that put him into the doghouse, where he should rightfully be right now. By the way, you can't drop the football at the goal line or anything and then expect to not be punished, right? And I'm willing to bet that Coach Steichen had like a long, talk with them before the game on Sunday and kind of during that week of practice about the importance of ball security and those things. And then to follow it up by doing what he did, he should undoubtedly be punished for that. But he has an opportunity to earn his way out of the doghouse this week. And I think it'd be really cool if he righted his mistake on the road in the same stadium that, put him on the bad side of every Colts fan ever. Because that's where he's at right now. So I do think there's a pretty decent chance that we're going to see A.D. Mitchell on Sunday. No Charvarius Ward obviously spells trouble. Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston. It's a very good trio of wide receivers. Kind of like the Colts. No real alpha, but three guys who do three very different things. Ladd McConkey, slot guy, blazing fast. He's their Josh Downs. Catch and run kind of guy. Keenan Allen, he's their Michael Pittman. Bigger receiver, runs good routes, finds ways to get open, does a good job of kind of running those like deep crossers and things. Quentin Johnston, he's their Alec Pierce. Going to run a lot of deep routes, makes contested catches, and if he catches it, he can run, and he will leave you in the dust. So it's a very nice trio of wide receivers for the Chargers. And that's going to give all of these Colts corners a ton of problems because the Colts cornerback room just continues to be so incredibly banged up. As I said earlier, Javarius Ward probably not playing on Sunday. Probably not playing with that injury, or with the concussion. Justin Wally, he's on IR. Jalen Jones, still on IR. Problematic. Very problematic this upcoming Sunday, having to go against this Chargers offense and all those receivers. Now, good news, a little bit of it at least. Kenny Moore practiced yesterday. He was limited, but it's a Wednesday. And if they were still concerned about his Achilles, I don't think that they would have had him practice at all on Wednesday. So maybe he doesn't play this week, but it's good that he is very close to returning for this Indianapolis Colts team. So he was a limited participant yesterday. We'll see if he's a full or limited participant, or if he practices at all. He could regress after, a light day of practice. That obviously wouldn't be good, but he's close, it seems like, and hopefully he's able to come back at some point during the week. He'd be great to put on Ladd McConkey. That would actually be very, very helpful for, the Colts, having to deal with that guy in the slot. So maybe he'll be back. That would be a big lift. Out wide, Colts are in trouble. There's just no other way to really put it. Whether it's, Jonathan Edwards or, Chris Lamons, Mekhi Blackman, whoever it ends up being at outside corner, good luck. Justin Herbert may throw for 500 yards on Sunday. Okay, none of the other injuries seem like a super big deal. Tyler Goodson still dealing with the groin. It feels like he's kind of on this Caitlin Clark path where Caitlin Clark hurt her groin, and they're like, she'll be back. And then she never came back. Kind of feels like he's on a pretty similar trajectory. Kind of feels like he's on a pretty similar trajectory. Alec Pierce, he has an ankle, but he was a full participant at practice yesterday. Braden Smith, he didn't practice, but he was resting. So outside of the two concussions, there's really not too much to worry about for the Colts in the realm of injuries. The Chargers, I don't have time to go through all their injuries. That's the reality of it. It is a very, very long list of guys that are banged up for the Chargers. So we'll just go with the biggest updates for them. All right. Joe Alt, he's their best offensive tackle. Even if Rashawn Slater was healthy, you would still say that Joe Alt is their best defensive tackle. All right. He's back practicing for the first time since he hurt his ankle. He's a major difference maker for them. We all know how bad this Colts defensive line is. It is, or not bad. We all know how average. Let's go with average. We all know how average this Colts defensive line is. They don't defend the run great. They don't really rush the passer super consistently. And so having Joe Alt out would be very big for the Colts. Like if that guy plays, whether it's Leatu Latu, Kwity Paye, Samson Abukum, JT Tuimoloau, Tyquan Lewis, whoever it is, good luck to them. I mean, seriously, it's going to be brutal for whoever is lined up across from Joe Alt because he's just a stone wall over there. Quentin Johnston, their deep threat at receiver, he was limited yesterday with a hamstring injury. He's an elite deep threat. I think that's what he's turned himself into. Very big, very fast. And over the offseason, he learned how to catch the football. Pretty amazing what happens when you learn how to catch the football, right? It's like a radio host learning how to talk really elevates your game. Some would say if you couldn't do those things, then you couldn't be a radio host or an NFL wide receiver. But Quentin Johnston found a way to get it done. Khalil Mack, he's back practicing for the first time since going on IR. He hurt his elbow. He's 34. So I'm not sure how impactful he's going to be coming off of this injury. With that being said, he had 6 sacks last year. Not great. 2 years ago, though, he had 17. It's a pretty high number. So we'll see what he can do. He's certainly not what he was when he was playing for the Bears and the Raiders and those things, but he can still go a little bit. And thankfully, the Colts offensive line is very healthy right now, so I'm not too worried about Khalil Mack wrecking this game coming up on Sunday. Trey Pipkins, he's like their backup offensive tackle who's been playing. He got hurt. He's still not practicing yet. Jamari Sawyer, he was finally back. He's an offensive guard, so they're getting healthier, but they certainly aren't healthy. It's like half the guys on their injury reports. And the concerning thing is if Quentin Johnston plays. If Quentin Johnston plays, then this Colts secondary is going to be in trouble to a point where, if they gave up 30 and Justin Herbert had like 4 touchdown passes, then, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. And that's really, I think, the only way that this Colts team loses the game is if Justin Herbert plays out of his mind like he's very capable of doing, and the Colts can't really find any sort of way to counter it, right? Because I like Daniel Jones. They haven't asked him to kind of put the game. They haven't asked him to put the game on his arm and go win a shootout. Like, yes, the Colts have scored a lot of points, but they've scored a lot of points because their team has been balanced. And they've been able to run the football, and they've been able to, to run the football and to throw the football, balanced attack, all those things. But if it's like, Daniel, we need you to go throw for 350, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. We'll see. Good news, a lot of injuries for this Chargers team. So if Daniel Jones is asked to drop back and throw it 45 times, then, all the injuries on this Chargers defense should hopefully enable him to do that a little bit better. Eric Rodgers, starting corner, is on IR. Dean Leonard, another starting corner, he's on IR. Jordan, I can't say his last name, another corner, he's on IR. So both teams are walking into this game with some banged up secondaries. I don't know what the over-under is. I'm actually going to go try to find it right now. I'm seriously probably going to take the over, whatever it winds up being, just because of, all the injuries to the back end of this Colts defense, all the injuries on the back end of the Chargers defense, and, and the rest of their team just in general. So let me see if I can find this over under here right quick. The over under is 48.5. So do you think there will be 7 touchdowns scored? I absolutely do. Like, they're telling you this game's going to be like 24-24. That's around kind of the score that they're predicting. 27-24 gets you the over. Look, the Colts have the best offense in football through these first six weeks. Like, if they broke 30 and they gave up 28, that would be very fitting for how the Colts have won games this year. C. Fitch saying that he's expected for Tyler Warren to have one of those 8-catch, 100-yard games this week. I don't know if he's going to do that, not because he can't, but when you look at just how the Colts have spread the football around, it's been really, really impressive. I talked about it a lot early in the year, but Tyler Warren, he is their leading receiver. He does have more targets than anyone else, but it's not by like a wide margin. So he's been targeted 40 times. What's 40 divided by 6? It's a little less than 7. So 8 catches would mean he'd have to be targeted like 11 or 12 times. And I just don't think that the Colts are going to target him that many times, right? Because they do a good job of getting Michael Pittman Jr. involved and Josh Downs. And, they're going to give Alec Pierce his chances down the field as well. So unless the Colts drop back and throw it 45 times, I just think it's going to be really hard for them to do that. And then you throw in the fact that the Chargers' run defense is 29th in the NFL in terms of yards per carry allowed. So they're going to be able to run the football. We'll see how it goes. Like, great point on no Josh Downs, but I still think that they're going to do, especially after last week, like Michael Pittman Jr. wasn't super involved I think that they're going to try to find a way to get him a little more involved in this game. But we'll see. We'll end up seeing how it goes. I just hope we get an AD Mitchell redemption game. That would be awesome. Anyway, Jared Dubin, who covers the NFL over at CBSSports.com, also does a great job covering the NBA over at lastnightinbasketball.com. He's joining the show at 11. We're talking football. Don't even worry about it. He's a Miami grad, so we'll talk a little bit about Miami and college football and a whole bunch of NFL stuff. He lives in New York. Okay, he's a Cowboys fan, but he lives in New York. He was, been there through the whole Daniel Jones experience. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. So that's at 11 in 4 minutes. Fraud Watch. Which teams in the NFL may or may not be frauds in 4 minutes?
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X _ Jonathan Smith. Follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Jared Dubin joining the show here in about 20 minutes. We'll talk NFL, a little bit of college football as well. And right now, though, we're talking NFL. Everyone wanted to question the Colts to start the season. It's like, they're 2-0, but they haven't really beaten anybody any good. Right? That was kind of the thing around the Colts. Like, they beat Miami. Who cares? They weren't supposed to be good. You mean they beat the Titans? They're not good either. And they beat the Raiders? They're not good. They beat the Cardinals with Jacoby Brissett? Ugh. Who cares? They're not good. That is, what people have said. And I get it. The Colts schedule hasn't been super tough. But as I've said multiple times here on this show, it's not that the schedule is easy. It's how they're blowing the teams on their schedule out. That is the impressive part of what they're doing. And what bothers me is no one is bringing up the other teams in the NFL that have benefited from an easy schedule. Like the Colts at least have a quality win over a 4-2 Denver Broncos team. The Bills, team that everyone loves, Josh Allen, second favorite to win MVP. 4-2. They beat the Ravens, who won one game. The Jets, who are winless. The Dolphins, who are 1-5. And the Saints, who have won one game. They've played two quality opponents. They played the Patriots at home, and they lost. And then they went on the road to play the Falcons. And guess what? They lost that game as well. The Saints game was close late. Late touchdown by the Bills kind of put it away. The Dolphins game was close. And then they needed a 15-point comeback to beat the Ravens. They haven't been dominant like the Colts have against these lesser teams. And again, people love to bring up the Colts schedule, but they're not doing it with the Bills because the Bills have Josh Allen. But they should bring it up. That offense for Buffalo, look, it's good, right? Josh Allen still doing Josh Allen things. James Cook's been one of the better running backs in the NFL. Okay, both are having really good starts to the year. But their defense is bad. It's bad. They're 22nd in third down defense. The Bills are 17th in points allowed per game. They're 23rd in yards per play allowed. So they're not getting off the field on third down, and they're giving up too many big plays. To be fair to them, they are 11th in defensive red zone touchdown percentage. Right, that's good, but everything else isn't. They defend the run worse than everyone else in the league. They are last in the NFL in yards per carry allowed at 5.8 yards per carry. You're not going to win games against good opponents when you're that bad at defending the run. I complain about the Colts' run defense all the time. I can say, though, it is definitively better than what the Bills have going on up there in Buffalo when it comes to stopping the run. I don't know how much you watched that Monday Night Football game. They had two of them on. That was the early one, and then you had, the Bears and the Commanders on later. But the Falcons ran the football whenever they wanted. It's why they won. The Bills gave up 210 rushing yards on 32 carries. That's like 6.5 yards a carry. If you can't stop the run, then it's easier to keep Josh Allen on the sideline, right? Because I can wind the clock. It's part of why the Bills only scored 14 points in that game. It felt like the the Falcons just constantly kept the clock moving, and it shortened the game. So it's tough to win games when you're like that. Again, Bills, no good wins. The only two good teams they've played, they won. They lost. The Broncos, I have them listed as a potential fraud as well. Okay, the Broncos are 4-2, and to chime in on what McKinney's saying over on YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, head over there and subscribe, saying like you have to play the schedule that the league gives you. Totally agree. That is what you have to do. But that being said, when you play against quality opponents, like you have to win. You do. And there's a distinct difference between the Colts and all these other teams that I'm listing that I will get to here in a second. The Broncos, 4-2. Their 4 wins are against the Eagles, who are very talented, but I think everyone would agree that the Eagles are a little weird right now. The Titans, who are bad, the Bengals, who are bad, and the Jets, who aren't very good either. Their 2 losses came to the Chargers, who's a good football team, and the Colts, who we all agree is a good football team. They only beat the Eagles by 4. They beat the Titans by 8. That game was really weird. And they beat the Jets by 2. They couldn't move the football against the Jets, a legitimately bad defense. Now, speaking of defense, the Broncos defense is legitimately good. Like that Broncos defense is legitimately one of the best in the NFL, arguably the best in the NFL. I have no doubts whatsoever about the Denver Broncos defense. But Bo Nix and that offense have been very underwhelming. When your head coach comes out and says, in all my years coaching in the NFL, there are only 7 years where I've thought that I had a team good enough to win the Super Bowl, and this is one of those years. That's what he said. And so you say that, and you have your second-year quarterback who had a pretty solid rookie season, and then he comes out and he just hasn't been very good, and this Broncos offense hasn't been very good. It's seriously, you scored 13 points against the New York Jets. You scored 20 against the Titans. Come on now. Like the Broncos offense has had 2 games where they've looked good against the Colts defense, which is concerning, and against the Bengals defense, a team in which everybody seems to look good against. Okay, the Broncos offense, once again, just to reiterate how much it's struggling, they are 20th in the NFL in points per game. They've done a good job in the red zone so far, right? They're 12th in the NFL in red zone touchdown percentage, but they're 22nd in the NFL in red zone trips per game. So while they are good in the red zone, they don't get there very often. They can't sustain drives. They are 24th in the NFL in third down offense. The best teams in the NFL are good on third down, and they're good in the red zone. Right? Those are the teams that can sustain drives, stop drives, and score touchdowns. Okay, they can't stay on the field, this Denver Broncos offense. And they're 20th in yards per play. So they're not creating enough big plays to compensate for their current lack of consistency. The Colts last year, in terms of points per game, they were in the top half of the NFL, which doesn't make any sense when you consider who was playing quarterback for them. But they were able to be in the top half because they were able to consistently generate big plays down the field. 120-yard play, like that's a fifth of the field, and you're very rarely starting at your own 1. You're starting at the 30, and all of a sudden you're at midfield, and these kickers just don't seem to miss from 40-plus anymore. Okay, I love the defense in Denver, but their offense has to find a way to be a little bit more consistent. With that being said, it's hard not to have faith in Sean Payton to figure it out. The Lions are also 4-2 on the year. They've lost to the only 2 quality opponents that they've played. They lost to the Packers 27-13, and they lost to the Chiefs 30-17 on Sunday night. All of their wins are against bad teams, and to be fair, they've been very dominant. They beat the Bears in week 2, 52-21. They beat the Ravens 38-30. They beat the Browns 34-10, and then they beat the Bengals 37-24. Okay? Now, the thing with the Lions is not only are all their wins against bad teams, I want to love the offense. But the thing with the offense is they've played two good defenses, and they were bad in both of them. They scored 13 points against the Packers, and they scored 17 points against the Chiefs. I don't have the Colts on this list because they scored 29 on the Broncos, who might have the best defense in football, and they scored 31 on the Cardinals, who definitely has one of the 10 best defenses in football. All the Lions' big scoring games have come against bad teams. And against the two good defenses that they've played, they couldn't break 20. I'm not saying that their offense is bad because they have too much talent on offense to be bad. I would just like to see them do it against someone that's good at some point. Okay, I'll take them off of fraud watch when they do that. And then defensively, I haven't been impressed. They've got injuries, but so does everybody else. They're 18th in points allowed per game, 24th in red zone touchdown percentage. That's not good. And then they're 21st in red zone trips allowed. That's not a good combination for your defense. They can't get off the field, and they can't keep teams out of the end zone. They are 20th in the NFL in third down defense. The only thing that they're doing a good job at is not allowing big plays. They're 12th in yards per play allowed. But they've got to find a way to get off the field on third down. I know they're dealing with injuries, but so is everybody else, right? Of the three teams on the list, I think the Lions are the team that I'm most convinced is a fraud. The Broncos can beat good teams with that defense. The Bills have Josh Allen, who can put on the cape. I like Jared Goff. I don't want to ask him to put on the cape, and they don't have a defense that can bail them out. It's the reality of it. Someone in the YouTube chat threw out the Patriots. I like the Patriots. Okay? Like, I do. All right? They have a very good duo at corner. I think that's a really, really important thing for them. It's one of the better passing defenses in the NFL. Because of that, Christian Gonzalez is a very, very good corner. Like definitely one of the 10 best in the NFL. Might be one of the 5 best. Like, Christian Gonzalez is an absolute stud in every way, shape, and form. And then on the other side, across from him, they've got Carlton Davis, who's, another really good corner. So I like their corners. Christian Barmore was one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. I like that. And then you got Drake May, who's, he's like top 5 in everything when you look at quarterback numbers. It's really, really impressive, right? The offensive line, bringing in Will Campbell, he's been a hit so far. I really like the Patriots. That's a good team. Just saying. Well, even though their schedule has been a little light, right? Like, they did go into Buffalo and win. That to me is very impressive. Okay. So, and they blew out they blew out a decent 3-3 Carolina Panthers team as well. So, I like the Patriots. I think that they're better than what I thought they would be. I thought the people were a year early on them. Yeah, but it turns out I was wrong. Happens sometimes. Jared Dubin, he's going to join the show here in about 8 minutes or so. Does a great job covering the NFL. CBSSports.com, where he does that. Does a great job covering the NBA as well. Now, last night in basketball.com is where he does that. Colts, Chargers, going to be a lot of fun. Neither one of these teams are frauds. I think both teams are legitimately good at football. I really like the rosters of both teams. But injuries, obviously, are going to have an impact on all of that. Just football. Can't wait. Game tonight. Aaron Rodgers taking on Joe Flacco. Someone said earlier in the YouTube chat, Indie Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe, if it was 2009, everyone would be very excited. I'm very excited because we have football on, right? I'm not watching preseason basketball tonight. I did that last night. I really did. Stayed up, watched the Mavs and the Lakers. A lot of fun. Cooper Flagg playing point guard. Watch out. Anyway, just being funny there. Jared Dubin is about to join the show. Can't wait to have him on. We haven't had him on all year, so it'll be fun to kind of hear his perspective on Daniel Jones and the Colts as a guy who lives in New York and was there when the Giants were really bad with Daniel Jones. So Jared Dubin of CBS Sports and of Last Night in Basketball.com joins the show when we come back.
Paid for by Auto Discount Policy.
Aw, man, my car insurance went up this month.
And you're still going to keep that policy?
Yeah, I've had the same auto insurance for years. My rate's gone up a little, but that's just how it works, right?
I was the same way. Just paid whatever they told me. Then I called Auto Discount Policy and found out I was overpaying by hundreds a year.
Seriously?
Oh yeah, it took me 5 minutes. I called and they compared rates from top providers. They even saved me $650 a year.
Wait, $650 just for making one call?
Yep, they don't care about your driving record, credit score, even if you're not insured right now.
Okay, I'm calling right now.
Don't settle for the same auto insurance plan. Find out how you can save up to $650 a year on auto insurance. There's no obligation, no hassle, just real savings you can start putting back in your pocket today. Call 800-735-2036. That's 800-735-2036. One last time, 800-735-2036.
Attention taxpayers. If you owe $5,000 or more and have missed another tax deadline, you're officially on the IRS's radar. The IRS has resumed aggressive collections. That means wage garnishments, bank levies, even seizures of your home, car, or retirement accounts. If you owe $5,000 or more and missed the deadline, you're stacking new debt on top of what you already owe. Call Priority Tax Relief now. Their experts fight back fast and are saving their clients millions in tax debt every month.
I owed over $50,000. And they settled it for pennies on the dollar. These guys are as legit as they come.
After speaking on my behalf with the IRS, my entire debt of $25,000 will be eliminated.
Whether you've received collection letters or you're already facing liens and garnishments, call for your free consultation. There are no upfront fees. Priority Tax Relief. Let's make your taxes our priority. Call 800-958-3071. 800-958-3071. 800-958-3071.
Priority Tax Relief.
This is Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM. Let's do this. It's the real and Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome to hour number 2 of the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, X, the app, or 1430 AM. Do yourself a favor, head on down to Holiday World. They're doing a great job celebrating Halloween right now. Ride roller coasters, hang out with your kids, watch an awesome drone show. You don't want to miss it. Today's show is brought to you by Holiday World. Joined now by the one and only Jared Dubin, who does a great job covering the NFL over at CBSSports.com. Does a great job covering the NBA at lastnightinbasketball.com. He's got a ton of preseason NBA stuff coming out right now. And so if you like the NBA, that is definitely the place where you want to go. Jared, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm doing really well because the Colts are 5-1, and I didn't expect that. I don't think anyone really did. You live in New York, so you were there for all the Daniel Jones, New York Giant days. What is different with Daniel Jones in Indy compared to with the Giants?
I think a lot of it is he is taking and making the easy throws, which was a struggle for him through most of his time with the Giants. He had the one season where he didn't shoot himself in the foot that first year under Brian Daboll. But this year he's doing that on a consistent basis, and he's hitting some of the more downfield stuff. I think one of the things that we've talked about a bunch of times that I've come on your show is that Shane Steichen tends to put his quarterbacks in position to succeed by scheming them easy button type of throws and then allowing them to make the more difficult throws because they're more open than they usually would be under other play callers. And I think that he's doing a really good job of putting Jones in position to succeed that way.
I agree. I totally do. Even what's been impressive to me has been the throws down the field. I thought this would be a pretty heavy check down offense, but I think he seems just a little bit more confident. He made one throw against Arizona on Sunday where I think it's Alec Pierce is running down the seam, and he just rips it right between these two Cardinal defenders. And I was like, I didn't see that very often in New York. So it's so different playing football in Indy, or playing any sport really, in Indy compared to New York. Do you think that has anything to do with it? Just not having to deal with the weight of New York, being worried about everything that you do?
I tend to think that the whole, New York media boogeyman stuff is kind of overrated because I know, I am New York media. I know a lot of other New York media. This place is not scary. If you can't deal with puns on the back page of the New York Post and the Daily News, then you're probably not mentally tough enough to succeed anywhere. I think some of it might have to do with not having to face the pressure of being, the number 6, I think it was, pick in the draft and be the face of the franchise and the savior of the franchise. He's just counted on to come in there and do the base requirements of the job, take the easy stuff, and when the deep stuff is open, make the right throw. That might have something to do with it. But the New York media stuff, I think, is kind of overrated.
Okay, you're definitely the guy to ask about that. So, all right, I'm going to file that away, and I'm going to throw that at people from now on. Joined by Jared Dubin, who does a great job covering the NFL over at CBSSports.com, does a great job covering the NBA, too, over at lastnightinbasketball.com. Is there a team more surprising in the NFL this year than the Colts?
No, definitely not.
Not even the Ravens being 1-5?
Oh, I thought you meant in the good way.
Good or bad? Good or bad? My bad. I should have specified there. Good or bad? Is there a team more surprising than the Colts?
No, I still think Colts are 5-1 and that the Ravens are 1-5. The Ravens did have a pretty difficult schedule early on, and then obviously they've been without Lamar Jackson for the last couple games. Would I have expected them ever to be 1-5? No, but there was definitely not a world where I expected the Colts to be 5-1 on really any level. And you could argue that A.D. Mitchell doesn't have those penalties and drop the ball against the Rams. Maybe they're 6-0. If they don't have the big comeback against the Broncos, then maybe they're 4-2. So you can say the same sort of thing, but them being 5-1 is as surprising as anything that's happened so far.
Totally agree. I heard different media people be like, if the Colts win 5 games, I think that'll be surprising. I was like, I don't know about that. The roster is good. So you've been on the Shane Steichen train for a while, and I was thinking about it kind of last night. Like when he was the offensive coordinator in LA, he had Justin Herbert, and those offenses were really good. Ends up in Philly, he gets Jalen Hurts. Those offenses are really good. He gets Anthony Richardson, things go terribly. And then now he's got Daniel Jones, and the offense is, you could argue, the best in the NFL. What does that say about Anthony Richardson? And at what point do we discuss Shane Steichen like a Kevin O'Connell or one of those kinds of coaches?
I think it says a lot about how Anthony Richardson just really wasn't ready to play, which makes sense. Like the guy had, I think, 13 starts in college. He had basically no experience. He started, 4 games in his first season and left 2 of them early due to injury and then sat out the rest of the year. So coming into year 2 of his career, he had 15 games played in his career, essentially. And it's not a lot, and he's a player who very clearly needed a lot of seasoning and didn't get much of it through the college and first part of his career. And he was not a player for whom accuracy was ever a strength. And one of the big things that Steichen does is ask you to take the easy throws accurately, and he just wasn't able to do it.
Yeah, it's just brutal. And I think you're right. I think part of it is just the development with him just didn't really happen because of the injuries. I'm assuming you saw he fractured his orbital bone while stretching, which is just, it's not funny, but it perfectly summarizes his career. He just always seems to kind of find a way to get hurt.
Yeah, as someone who once got injured in warm-ups during high school football, I feel kind of bad for him. We were running routes from opposite sides of the field, and one of my teammates wasn't looking and ran into me. So that was not good.
That happened to Javarius Ward. He has a concussion. He's not going to play on Sunday because of it. So,
yeah.
I mean, you were just ahead of your time. Like, you were just doing what NFL players were going to do later on. That's all that it was. Joined by Jared Dubin, who does a great job covering the NFL at CBSSports.com. You can read his NBA writing too at last night in basketball.com. Colts fans here are, I think, getting a little ahead of themselves. There's Super Bowl talk. I don't think the Colts are quite that good. What is the ceiling for the Colts?
I mean, at this point, you got to think they should be a playoff team. Like, they've got a lead in the division. They're 5-1. If they just go 500 the rest of the season, you would think that they're going to make the playoffs. So I think you can think about that. The idea of them going through and beating the Bills or the Chiefs or whoever in the playoffs seems kind of outlandish to me. I know that the offense has been good so far, but them hitting the same type of ceiling as those quarterbacks with a Daniel Jones-led offense just doesn't seem all that realistic to me. But can they get to the playoffs? Can they maybe win a game? I don't know that I would go that far in terms of actually winning a game in the playoffs, but they should be thinking playoffs at a minimum. Just go 500 the rest of the way and you should get there.
That's where I'm at with them. I think whether or not they win a playoff game it's like everything else, like matchups and all those things. Like if they run into Kansas City, who's gotten off to a slow start, or Buffalo, who I still have some questions about. My concern with them is just their defense. The Colts defense is horrendous. It's so bad, and I think at some point that's what's gonna end up ruining things for them. But the AFC is just really weird this year. It doesn't feel like there's
it's bad. It's not weird. It's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, you're right. It is. That's the answer. And then you look at the NFC and everyone's 4-2. I think the Commanders are 3-3 and they're 12th in the conference standings. And I think the AFC is pretty easy to figure out. We're probably going to look up and get Mahomes and Allen in the AFC Championship game again because, like you said, it's a conference filled with bad teams, and great quarterbacks usually beat bad teams. What do you kind of picture? How do you picture the NFC kind of turning out? Because I don't even know who the best team is in that conference.
It's tough. All these teams seem like they're just as good as one another. So it's really hard to pick who's the best. Coming into last week, I was like, man, maybe it's the Lions. They look like the best team since week 1. And then they come out and, the offense, once they got behind against the Chiefs, wasn't obviously the same. And we know that can happen to them. Once they get behind by multiple scores, especially in the second half, things get a little bit more difficult for them just because, like, if it's still a one-score game, they can still get into their run game and their play action stuff. When they're down by 13, 14 points or whatever it is, things get a little bit different, especially late in the game. But and obviously they have the injuries on defense right now. I think the Packers still have the highest ceiling. We've seen that from them early in the season. They haven't been the same for the last few weeks, but we've seen the level that defense can get to, and we've seen the level the offense can get to when Jordan Love is, similar to Daniel Jones taking the easy stuff in addition to taking the stuff down the field. We've seen them, I think, have the highest two-way ceiling among the NFC teams. So, gun to my head, maybe I would say the Packers are the best team there, but even they haven't looked, like world beaters over the last few games.
Were you? What was your response when the Cowboys traded Parsons? I know you're a Cowboys fan, so I have to ask.
Yeah, it was not very smart. Like, especially like you look at this team now, Dak Prescott is playing as well as any quarterback in the NFL, like reaching a higher level than he did even in the season where he finished second in MVP voting to Lamar Jackson a couple of years ago. And because the defense is as bad as the Cowboys offense is good, they might not even make the playoffs, and they're going to waste a peak season from, the guy who's by the end of the year, by a couple weeks from now, is going to be like their all-time passing leader. And it's a shame because we knew this was going to happen once they traded Micah Parsons. They had the single best defense in the league when he was on the field during his career, and the single worst defense in the league when he was off the field during his career. Now he's not on the field at all, and they have the worst defense in the league.
Yeah, it's not great. Doesn't help that Matt Eberflus is your defensive coordinator either. Yeah, and like you say, Dak Prescott has been, like you said, he's playing as well as anyone in football right now, and it just sucks because the NFL is more fun when the Cowboys are good. And like you said, if they're just wasting the season of Dak. I want to stay in the NFC East. If Jackson Dart wasn't 2-1, would they be upset about Daniel Jones not figuring it out in New York?
I don't think that the record matters. I think that the way he's playing matters more. Like if they were 1-2 instead of 2-1, like let's say they lost that Chargers game in the first game, which was a close game. Like I don't think people would be freaking out about Daniel Jones just because Dart has looked good. I think that Brian Daboll has put him in position to succeed. Like if you look at the way that the Giants are running their offense with Jackson Dart under center and the things that the Titans are asking Cam Ward to do in that offense, I mean, I feel bad for Cam. I'm a Miami fan, so I'm a little biased in his favor, but they're asking him to make difficult throws on basically every snap, and the Giants are giving Dart easy buttons in the offense. His athleticism helps with that because he's a good runner, but the throws that they're asking him to make are a lot more underneath stuff, a lot more screens, a lot more play action. And when you look at the opposite, the Titans are doing the exact opposite. They're not giving him any of the easy stuff. But Dart has looked good with what they put on his plate. They're not putting a ton on his plate, which I think is smart. You should do that instead of and build the foundation for your quarterback instead of asking them to make the most difficult throws in the league on a consistent basis.
Joined by Jared Dubin, who does a great job covering the NFL over at CBSSports.com, does a great job covering basketball over at Last Night in basketball.com. I agree. The one thing with Dart, I just wish he'd slide. Like he takes way too many hits. He's going to get himself hurt. Like that is, it's already happened.
He took 15 hits against the Chargers.
Jeez.
He's left 2 of his 3 games to get checked in the concussion protocol. Like, cannot happen. Needs to protect himself. No question.
Okay. Speaking of him going into the tent, if Brian Daboll hates playing Russell Wilson so much, why don't they just make Jameis Winston the backup? I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, it's like every time, he.
I don't know why they signed Russell Wilson in the first place. They should have just started Jameis to begin the season.
I agree.
They already had a bridge quarterback.
Yeah, totally agree. Like, I've never seen a coach run into the medical tent like that. That's just, it was awesome. It was like, would any other coach do that? I don't know. I'm probably Liam Cohen because that guy's crazy. I'm glad that you brought up Cam Ward because I've watched a lot of him because I just liked watching him play at Miami. And there's he makes a couple throws every week where it's yeah, that's why he was the number 1 pick. But hopefully the removal of Brian Callahan leads to him being a little bit better. But yeah, I know you already mentioned that they're making things kind of tough on him, but like overall, just with his play, what are kind of your just overarching thoughts on Cam Ward?
I thought through the first 4 weeks of the season, he actually played a lot better than the numbers suggested. That Tennessee offensive line obviously is a disaster. He's running for his life basically every single week, and the receivers have been somehow just as bad or possibly even worse. They're leading the league in drops. It's like ridiculous at a certain point. You saw in the week 1 game against the Broncos when they had a chance to stage a comeback, they dropped 3 straight passes over the middle. And Cam's dad was seen on TV. He was like, "Oh my God," putting his head in his hands because he couldn't believe what was happening. And that guy, he was at every Miami game last year. He comes to Miami games still. That guy shows no. I had never seen him show emotion before. Just stoic all the time. And he was like dying at that stuff in the first game of the season. Through the first 4, and then against the Rams, I thought he played really well. He had that crossbody throw to Alec Iomanner for the touchdown. He's done that a couple times this year. Like you said, he makes a few throws every week that you're just like, oh my God, this is the reason this guy was the number 1 pick. The big thing to me is they're not putting him in position to succeed. The offensive line is a disaster. The receivers keep dropping passes. And the offense is designed to make him make difficult throws on every snap. There are no, I've used this phrase a bunch of times, and I think it's really important. There are no easy buttons in that offense. And I just think it's really bad idea to design an offense that way. Like, they're basically asking him to do what Joe Burrow does for the Bengals, and that's not fair to ask of a number 1 pick. Even early in his career, Joe Burrow wasn't asked to do that. And when he was asked to do that, he had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Cam Ward has, 75% of Calvin Ridley, who's been in and out of the lineup, and then all rookies as his wide receivers or old guys in Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson, who, Tyler Lockett, as good as he was at his peak, is not very good anymore. Van Jefferson has never been all that good of a receiver. You can't ask your quarterback to do what they're asking him to do and expect him to succeed.
Totally agree. Like, you have to make things easy on your quarterback, especially when they're young. It's like, confidence and all those other things that are really important.
Cam is never going to not be confident.
That's
I'm
true.
not worried about that at all.
That's very true. Joined by Jared Dubin, does a great job covering the NFL at CBSSports.com and a great job covering the NBA over at lastnightandbasketball.com. You're a Miami graduate, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Carson Beck, leader in the Heisman race right now. They're really good. I think they're one of the 3 best teams in the country. I think it's Ohio State, Miami, and Indiana. Do you agree with that? Do you think Miami's the best team in college football? Where are you at with them?
I don't know if they're the best team in college football. I think you can make a pretty good argument for them to be number 1 based on their resume. Ohio State's number 1 because they started the season ranked higher. I think Miami maybe has as good or better of a resume, but they're pretty close up there. And my brother went to Indiana too, so this is like a big season in the Dubin household for college football. I think they're right up there as the number 1 team in the country, though. And Carson Beck, he's good. He makes me a little bit nervous though whenever he's under pressure with his decision making. But the offensive line is so good that he's basically never under pressure. He's getting pressured on like 19, 20% of his dropbacks or something like that. And when he's clean, he's good.
Does Mario Cristobal's history of in-game management worry you at all?
Yeah. Like 1,000%. Like, he's made me so nervous already in 3 games that had no business being close. Like the Notre Dame game, the Florida game, and the Florida State game had no business being as close as they were at any point in the fourth quarter. But once they get up by a certain amount, they basically just go into a shell. Like, just run your regular offense, which you've been successful with all game, instead of running into the middle of the line 3 times in a row in the fourth quarter. And these games won't get to the point where they're a 1-possession game or even a tie game like the Notre Dame game was in the fourth quarter.
Joined by Jared Dubin, Miami grad, and does a great job covering the NFL over at CBSSports.com. He also has a Substack called Last Night in Basketball. Dude, I love reading your stuff. I love following you on X and seeing all of your comments. So I have to ask you an NBA related question, but before I let you go, because the season starts on Tuesday, I love the Magic. Like, if the Magic came out of the East, that would not surprise me at all. Who is the NBA team that you like more than everyone else seems to?
More than everyone else seems to. Maybe the Hawks.
Yeah.
Like I know that it's dumb to ever trust the Hawks because they pull the rug out from you basically every time you trust them. But I just love their offseason. I think that they are such a versatile team. This year they can play so many different ways. They can play Porzingis as the lone big man, Okongwu as the lone big man. They can play both of those guys together. You can play Jalen Johnson at basically any of the spots along the front line as long as he's healthy. You can play Nickeil Alexander-Walker with Trae Young. You can play him as the backup point guard. So basically, the only combination that you really can't use is Trae Young and Luke Kennard because you're just going to get absolutely fried defensively. But pretty much anything else, they can play these guys in any combination they want. They're going to be really good offensively. I think that their defense should be better than it was last year, bringing in KP and bringing in Nickeil Alexander-Walker. As long as they're healthy, I think they're going to be very, very good.
I agree. I think we're in for an NBA season pretty similar to the NFL, where like the Western Conference is like the NFC and the Eastern Conference is like the AFC. I'm stoked for it. Jared, I stayed up last night watching all 4 quarters of Lakers and Mavericks. Like I'm ready for it, and I'm stoked for it.
No LeBron, no Luka Lakers in the preseason.
I wanted to see Cooper Flag play point guard. I wanted to see Flag play point guard. That was my thing.
Yeah.
So, all right, Jared, thank you for your time. As always, man. Do you have any articles coming out soon on either CBS or your Substack?
Yeah, I had the Steelers Bengals preview come out this morning for the Thursday night football game. Got something coming out on Saturday about the Falcons 49ers Sunday night football game. And then, starting next week, I'll be getting into the rhythm with basketball stuff, preseason predictions on Monday, and then starting with everything else that I do basically on Wednesday right after opening night.
Sounds good. Thanks for your time, Jared.
Thanks for having me.
That is Jared Dubin. You can check him out on X at JADubin5. Check out all of his writing. He does a great job covering both the NBA and the NFL. Speaking of the NFL, the Colts playing the Chargers on Sunday. How good are the Chargers? I'll tell you in 4 minutes.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching the show on X, __ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Tickets app. Next week, starting on Monday, the show will not be on from 10 to noon. The show will be on from 7 to 9 a.m., moving the show to morning drive. So you'll have to get up a little bit earlier to hear the real of that. The Colts playing a Chargers team that at one point, just the roster, a lot of good players. Justin Herbert playing some of the best football of the guy every single year. And then all the injuries happened. Najee Harris tears his Achilles. Marion Hampton gets hurt. He goes on IR. I already said that. But everyone just all of a sudden goes on IR. Pimpkins, backup offensive lineman. They also get hurt. 3 of those 4 guys could be back this week, by the way. And despite all those injuries, they're 4-2. It's a testament to Justin Herbert and Jesse Minter, their defensive coordinator. Justin Herbert has been one of the 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in the NFL this year. Okay, he's completing 68% of his passes. He's 8th in passing yards, 9th in passing touchdowns, 10th in QBR, 10th in rushing yards amongst quarterbacks. He's doing everything for this Chargers team with all of these injuries around him. And it is really impressive. As I said, legitimately one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL to start the season. One of the 5 best. You'd have to go Mahomes, Allen, Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, and Justin Herbert. Not having Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson makes it way easier to say that, by the way. So, really, really good team. This Chargers team is. But again, the injuries make it a little bit easier. Justin Herbert just kind of throwing the team on his back whenever he has to. I've made my argument for why Baker Mayfield should be the MVP of the NFL through this point in the year. I think you could make a very similar argument for Justin Herbert of just all the injuries. Despite that, having an ability to get your team to 4-2, it's really impressive. It's MVP worthy things, and it's not like they're playing cupcakes. They've got some decent teams on that schedule that they've beaten, including the Chiefs and the Broncos. So good, really good team. Just a little bit banged up right now, which is going to give the Colts a chance to win this game, right? Khalil Mack might be back, on Sunday. We'll see. This defense just as banged up as the offense. And Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator of the Chargers, he's a guy who I think should get to interview for some head coaching jobs. Maybe he gets one, maybe he doesn't. But what he's been able to do, patching this defense together every week, it's impressive. They're missing guys like Khalil Mack, 2 other pass rushers, 3 starting linebackers, and 2 corners. And they've still found a way to have one of the 10 best defenses in the NFL. Right? The biggest concern for them is their run defense, especially playing against this Colts team. Right? The Chargers are 29th in the NFL in yards per carry allowed at 5 yards per carry. It should be a big day for Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor should have another game where he runs for over 100 yards and the Colts win. They're 12th. The Chargers are 12th in the NFL in points allowed per game. By the way, they only allow 1 more point per game than the Colts do, and there's 8 spots between them. Kind of crazy how small the margins are in the NFL. But they're able to keep their opponents' teams from scoring a bunch of points because of the red zone defense. They only allow a touchdown 43% of the time on their defensive red zone possessions. That's the second highest mark in the NFL behind the Broncos. They're ninth in the NFL in opponent yards per play. That tells me that they do a good job of not allowing big, explosive plays over the top. And they're 13th in the NFL in third down defense. With all the injuries that they sustained, the fact that they've found a way to be one of the 10 best defenses in the NFL is incredibly impressive. They're 4-2 for a reason. Like, they're a good team. The Chiefs and Broncos, those are good wins. Finding a way to beat the Dolphins on the road with all those injuries, traveling all the way across the country. That's impressive. The only way the Colts lose this game to the Chargers, though, is if they beat themselves. And it's strictly because the Chargers are incredibly hurt. If the Chargers were healthy, I would pick them to beat the Colts. But they're not, all right? And that's the reality of football. The only way the Colts lose this game is if they do what they did against the Rams. They turn the football over 3 times, fumble the ball at the goal line. Daniel Jones throws 2 bad interceptions. Zaire Franklin drops an interception. Javarius Ward drops an interception, and so on. That's the only way that the Colts go on the road to the Chargers and lose. The Chargers are good, but they're not better than the Colts right now because the Colts are just significantly healthier than the Cardinals. It's the very simple reality of it. When we come back, here in about 4 minutes, speaking of injuries, we'll run through them. And, these people on ESPN, Bussin' with the Boys, FanDuel podcast with, Trey Lewan, and I forget the other guy's name who played for a bunch of different, Will Compton, that's his name. One of them had to come out and say that the Colts were, a little fraudulent, that the Colts were overrated at 5-1 because of who all they've beaten and all these things. And it's just annoying. This Colts team is legitimately good. Look, I have my very fair share of concerns about the defense, but the offense is awesome. It is. It's legitimately the best offense in the NFL. Okay, they are good enough. The Colts are good enough to beat anyone, as long as Daniel Jones continues playing football the way that he is. Okay, a name on YouTube that I don't feel like reading says that the road games coming up will be brutal. Chargers, Chiefs, Seahawks, Steelers, Jags, Texans, then the brutal home games and neutral site games against the Falcons, 49ers. It's a stretch. I guess. Like I said, this Chargers team is very banged up. The Chiefs, undoubtedly, very tough game on the road. Seahawks on the road, undoubtedly, very tough game. The Steelers, they're the one-loss team that people should be talking about like they're a little like there are question marks. That is the one-loss team. People should be like, I don't know if they're very good compared to, the Buccaneers, the Packers, and the Colts being the other 3. The Steelers are the one team in that group that is not like the others. So not worried about the Steelers on the road, plus the Colts have beaten them 3 times in a row. They have their number a bit. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 4-2. Look, I get it. Colts haven't won there on the road in, over a decade now. So that part of it's concerning. But the Jags themselves are not. They're 4-2. Have you seen them play? I watched them play the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. It's the only good game that they've played all year. That is the only good Trevor Lawrence showing we have seen all year long. The other games, it has been a struggle for that offense. They've won games because their defense is forcing 3 turnovers per game on average. So if the Colts go down to Jacksonville and they just don't turn the football over, then they're going to have a great chance to beat them on the road for the first time in forever. Houston, very, very concerned about playing that defense on the road. The offense, though, is just bad. Not enough weapons and arguably the worst offensive line in football. So, half of those, two of those road games are tough. The other 4, I'm not overly concerned about. The game in Germany against Atlanta. Atlanta's got a good roster. They're very up and down, though. They beat the Bills one week and then they lose 30-0 to the Panthers the next. So we'll see how good Atlanta is. And then the 49ers, they're incredibly banged up as well. Right? Fred Warner out for quite some time. I don't know if you saw his foot on Sunday. Nasty. Nick Bosa tore his ACL. He's out for the rest of the year. right? Brock Purdy, still not back from the turf toe stuff. Mac Jones is banged up. Juwan Jennings, he's been hurt. Ricky Pearsall's gotten hurt. They're incredibly banged up. And Christian McCaffrey hasn't even gotten hurt yet. So this Colts schedule, not as daunting as what it may seem. So 4 minutes, the Colts, their injuries, and the Chargers and their injuries.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility, he knows keeping the line up and running is a top priority. That's why he chooses Grainger. Because when a drive belt gets damaged, Grainger makes it easy to find the exact specs for the replacement product he needs. And next day delivery helps ensure he'll have everything in place and running like clockwork. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You need parts? O'Reilly has parts. Get one free set of brake pads when you buy 2 brake rotors. Upgrade to Brake Best Select pads for just $10. Or upgrade to Brake Best Select Pro or Import Direct pads for just $20. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
tickets at noon. The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Now, this is Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching the show on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Today's show is sponsored by Holiday World. Do yourself a favor. Get down to Holiday World. Have a good time. Take your kids. Ride some roller coasters. And just have a blast. Right? Because Holiday World, it's a great place to do. It's a great place to be. They've got this awesome drone show going on right now. It's kind of help celebrate Halloween. So make sure you get down there and you experience that. Because like I said, it is a truly great place to be. You know what else is a great place to be? Sitting atop the AFC. And that's what the Colts are doing right now, sitting there at 5-1. And this team is good. And I'm scrolling on social media between the segments, and Will Compton, who I like, funny guy. I see clips of him on this other podcast where he talks about being a dad, and he seems like he really loves his family. And the guy played in the NFL and was a really good linebacker at Nebraska, and all these things. All right. Here's my thing though. Will Compton just went on Get Up and said that the Colts at 5-1 are overrated. And I just can't with that. It's insane. It's insane. So here's Will Compton. Hopefully the YouTube audience is going to be able to hear this. Here's Will Compton talking about the Colts being overrated at 5-1. Shout out Dan Orlovsky right there. Just laying it down like, hey, Will, the Colts are not overrated. This is a very good offense. Can we also just remember that in that Broncos game, they scored 29? And if you're watching on YouTube and you couldn't hear what they said, or on X, I don't really know. I don't get many comments from the X people, which is fine. If you couldn't hear, it's exactly what you would expect. They beat the Dolphins and the Titans. And when they beat the Broncos committed a really bad penalty, and it's like, oh, you mean their opponent made a mistake and they took advantage of it? You mean the thing that happens all the time in sports happened? Oh my goodness, that win shouldn't count. Just chalk it up as a tie, I guess. All the normal, like if you couldn't hear, it's just all the normal Colts bull crap. They beat the Dolphins and Tua. The Broncos, they got lucky. They got lucky because no. They didn't get lucky. Their opponent made a boneheaded mistake. That is what happened. Lucky is Daniel Jones throws a Hail Mary. It bounces off of 4 people's hands and then lands in the arms of A.D. Mitchell. That is luck, not their opponent committed a penalty. That's what happened. Anyway, they beat the Titans and Cam Ward. They beat the Raiders and, Geno Smith. And then they beat Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals. Like, they haven't really beaten anybody any good. They just hung 29 points up on arguably the best offense, or excuse me, on what could be the best defense in the NFL. Are the Colts flawed? Abso-freaking-lutely. Absolutely, the Colts are, the Colts are flawed, right? Like the defense isn't good, or it's struggled. That's probably a better way to say that. The defense has struggled, right? Like they have their issues. But to just sit there and be like, yeah, the Colts aren't good, even though they're 5-1, it's just like, Will Compton, man, golly. Anyway, That's why, like, and the thing about it is, like, no one's going to talk about how the Bills are 4-2 and they beat the Ravens, a game in which they scored 15 points in the final 4 minutes to be able to come back and win. No one's going to talk about how and their other 3 wins are the Jets, Dolphins, and Saints. They've played two good teams. They lost both of them. They lost to New England and they lost to Atlanta. No one wants to talk about how the Broncos are 4-2. Their 4 wins are against the Eagles, who are very weird right now, Titans, Bengals, and Jets. No one wants to talk about how the Lions are 4-2. The 2 good teams that they've played, they got blown out by. They lost to the Packers 27-13, and they lost to the Chiefs 30-17. Their 4 wins have come against the Bears, Ravens, Browns, and Bengals. No one wants to talk about that, though. It's so annoying how people, and it's just because Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback. That is the only reason why anybody's doing this. And it's just like, hey, the guy can play now. Did he, he made a couple bad throws against Arizona, threw a bad pick, could have had another one, should have had another one. But Buda Baker, though, pan hands. I don't know if you guys did that at recess growing up, but if anybody was, like if they dropped a pass, everyone would run around and they'd clap. And we'd yell pan hands. Anyway, that's beside the point. But it's just frustrating because this Colts team is legitimately good. They are legitimately good at football. Like, believe it or not, this is one of the 5 best teams in the AFC. They are. The offense it's the best in football. It is. It's the best in football. And the fact that people just completely and totally ignore that when talking about the Colts, it's just, geez, I'm just, it's so annoying. If the Colts are overrated at 5-1, then the Bills, Broncos, and Lions are all overrated at 4-2. Seriously, like if that's the way that we want to do these things, then like sure, like let's just completely ignore the fact that the Colts have blown out all of those bad teams, with the exception of the Cardinals, who do have, I think, a pretty solid team. Okay, like who have the Steelers beaten? They're 4-1. They're 4 wins. The Jets, the Patriots, the Vikings without J.J. McCarthy, and the Browns. Do we want to question the great Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are probably going to be 5-1 after tonight when they play the Bengals? I mean, seriously, like this is just, it's a joke. It really is, and it's so incredibly frustrating. Just the complete ignorance and the inability to look around the rest of the NFL and question anyone else. Jeez Louise. These people, man. They clearly don't watch the Colts. And just be like, yeah, no, they're not very good. They have Daniel Jones. It's like, all right. Anyway. Little rant there. I don't do that very often, but had to get it out. The Colts, speaking of being out, no Josh Downs, no Charvarius Ward on Sunday. They both have concussions. There is a world where they both clear concussion protocol. Probably not going to happen. It doesn't happen very often. No Josh Downs means A.D. Mitchell will be active. Ashton Dulin has a chest injury. So there's a real chance that we see A.D. Mitchell out there. Also a very real chance that we see a ton of 11 personnel. So that is Tyler Warren being on the field quite a bit. That's all that means. So decent chance here for A.D. Mitchell to come out and redeem himself in the stadium where he made that very big mistake, fumbling the football right at the goal line. So I really hope that he's able to do that. I'd really like it for him because he is, he is a young guy. I hate when people throw out that as an excuse. I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm using it as in reality. The guy is young. I'd love for him to kind of have a little bit of redemption going back to L.A., and there's a decent chance that happens with Josh Downs being out, and we'll see about Ashton Dulin and his chest today. No Charvarius Ward spells trouble for this Colts team. Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston. All 3 of those guys. Like, that's a really good trio of wide receivers. Very similar to the Colts, where I don't think any of them are like an elite number one, but they all do something a little bit different. Like Keenan Allen is their Michael Pittman Jr., can run every route on the route tree, just elite at finding a way to get open, and they both have really good hands. Ladd McConkey is their Josh Downs, blazing fast, yards after the catch guy. Ladd McConkey is going to return punts. He's going to line up in the slot, run really short routes, and be incredibly quick while he does it. And then Quentin Johnston is their Alec Pierce. Just a big dude who can go up and get it, deep threat, can really run. If he catches it, he will leave you in the dust. And those three guys are going to give this very banged up Colts cornerback room a lot of issues. A lot of issues going in this game on Sunday. So Kenny Moore was a limited participant yesterday. I really, really hope that he's healthy enough to come back on Sunday. He was a limited participant yesterday. Hopefully he's a full participant today and tomorrow. That bode very, very well for this Colts secondary. Those are the three big injuries for the Colts. Nothing else is super concerning. So hope the Colts continue to be really, really healthy. The Chargers are not. So that's going to do it here on the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Just another reminder, next week, show will start at 7 a.m. It'll run till 9 a.m. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way next. Buck Showalter at 1 o'clock. Always a blast when the coach comes on. We're going to talk a little bit of playoff baseball. Dan and I will continue talking Chargers and Colts. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's going to do it here on the Real Jonathan Smith Show. I'll talk to you tomorrow not for the last time. I'll talk to you tomorrow starting at 10 a.m. for the last time. Show moves to 7 a.m. starting next week.